reaction to the Rise of the Resistance experience right now. What is up, everyone? Welcome to this episode of D3. In this episode, I'm going to talk about my reaction to the Rise of the Resistance attraction here at the Disneyland Resort. First, as usual, I would like to thank y'all for your continued support of this channel. Remember, if you like what you see, go ahead and click the subscribe button below and become a member of the D3 family. Alright, D3 fam, let's get right to it. Rise of the Resistance is amazing. That attraction is the best attraction, in my opinion, in Disneyland history. I mean, they knocked it out of the park by far. Everything was perfect. I don't want to spoil it for you guys too much. I'm just talking about a couple of things about it that I really enjoyed about the experience itself. With that being said, folks, I'm going to talk about a couple of things with you guys. I'll talk about the actual virtual queue experience. I'll talk about, just the total wait time for the entire experience and the attraction briefly. And of course, the ending and everything like that. That being said, folks, let's go. Alright, DD fam. First, let's talk about the very beginning. I got here to Disneyland Resort around 6:50 this morning. It was pretty smooth, but you have to be in the park to actually access the virtual ride queue. Now, that's the only way you can be able to enjoy the Rise of the Resistance attraction here at the Disneyland Resort for the time being. So, you have to be inside of the Disneyland park. The park opens at 8 o'clock, but depends what time the park opens for that day. You have to be inside of the park to access the virtual queue on a Disneyland app. Now, mind you, this is the first day it opened. When you guys come, it'll probably be like a month later or something like that. But the first day, all of the all of the boarding groups in the queue sold out in 45 seconds. That has to be some type of record. But I would say possibly, once the excitement dies down, I would say still have to get to the park very early. That's my first recommendation. Get here for the rope drop. If you get here in time for the rope drop, there's a good chance you'll be able to access the boarding queue. Now, not was able to access the boarding queue. Let's see. I got my boarding queue at 8:02 a.m. right before it sold out, and I was my boarding group was boarding group 87. Now, from what I understand, there's like about 120 boarding groups. Now, typically, I think they go through like about 90 or 100 boarding groups. Depends if the ride is functioning during that day. Now, if there's a lot of downtime, the people in the latter boarding groups, like in the high 90s, probably will not be able to ride the attraction during that day, unfortunately. But today, it was a coin flip. I got here early, and luckily there was a minimal breakdown, downtime for the ride. So that was a plus right there. So right there, the virtual queue is perfect. I was able to enjoy all the Disney attractions. I was able to actually get on about 15 Disney attractions, throughout the day. And by the time my queue was called, my boarding group was called, it was at 7 p.m. local time. So it was a total of like 10 hours. So pretty much, if it wasn't for the virtual queue, I would have been waiting about 10 hours in line. That's ridiculous. So kudos again to the virtual queue. That's a big plus right there. Now let's talk about the actual ride itself. Now, if you do not want me to spoil this for you, I encourage you to speed up probably about 3 or 4 minutes near the end of this video. I'm sorry about that, but I have to talk about it. Now, if you want to know the spoilers, here we go. You start off, you go into this shuttle. Once you go into the shuttle, you start your mission. They take you up to the Star Destroyer. Then once you leave the Star Destroyer, you go into, once you enter the Star Destroyer, I should say, enter into the giant hangar where you see the TIE fighter, all these stormtroopers lined up. The cast members really take over. They tell you, get in line, to tell you what to do, follow directions. You have to do it too. And it's like they're really interrogating you. Then from that room, you go to the other interrogation room where they line you up into your parties and things like that. Then you listen till you get there, tell you to go into the room, to your actual interrogation room. That's where you meet Kylo Ren. He tries to interrogate you with the Force and everything like that. He's not successful, then he leaves you. A few moments later, you get rescued by the Resistance. Then from there, you go to the other ride video, which is fun, to make sure you're ready to escape and all that stuff like that. Then the fun really begins. You go throughout the Star Destroyer, you enter you You see the giant ad walkers; those are amazing. Into that room itself is like just indescribable. You get lifted up. You continue throughout this giant Star Destroyer, and the action, just the mind. I mean, just the scene itself is just indescribable. Then at the end of the ride, you go into the rescue. I think the escape pods. The escape pods. That's where a little minor free fall takes place. It's not that bad at all. I think Guardians is much worse, but it's a mild drop. Then once you drop there, you drop back down to Batu, and that's where you leave your vehicle and you're safe. A very good experience. I highly recommend it. Alright, D3 fam, now you heard pretty much the actual queue experience, the ride experience, and here's my overall rating of Rise of the Resistance. Like I said before, this, in my opinion, the best Disney attraction ever. Better than, you know, the old school rides, Pirates of the Caribbean, better than Indiana Jones, all those rides like that. It's like a combination of all those rides. There's so much going on. I'm serious. I was like speechless. The people that sat next to me, they were speechless. We were like all still in shock. It's an incredible attraction. If you are a Disney fan, I strongly recommend you guys get to the park early to experience this amazing attraction. With that being said, folks, this concludes this episode of Deep Free. Thanks again for watching. As usual, feel free to leave a comment below. And also, if you haven't already done so, feel free to subscribe to this channel. And also remember to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and also on Twitter. See you next time.